hands down the best and most well-rounded Kyrie model that we've ever had, at least so far. So the traction on the Kyrie 2, as you guys can see, this is not the Kyrie 2. So the traction, as you guys might know already, is herringbone. It's full length. It's also done in multi-directional fashion, so they point in all different directions. And overall, this stuff worked really, really well. What you actually get is something that starts off a little slick, which was pretty interesting. The first few days that I wore these, they were slippery upon lateral movements. And that was on two different types of floors that I had played on as well, which again, I just thought was really interesting. However, every time that I played in them after that, it's like there was some sort of residue or something, because they broke in so nicely to where I barely had to wipe at all. Now, in terms of just pure traction, if we're not looking at anything else on the shoe, I do feel that the Kyrie 2 is the best in the line. Then I would say the Kyrie 3, and then the Kyrie 4. Now, full-length cushion is on the Kyrie for the first time ever, which I think is fantastic. It's literally the one thing that everybody can pretty much agree on has been lacking with all of the Kyrie models. That is up until now. In the heel, we still have a Zoom Air unit. I think it's kind of useless in the back there. If you happen to strike with your heel or land and hit the floor with your heel on a rebound, which you shouldn't be doing, but if you happen to, the Zoom unit is there. It feels nice if you actually put pressure on it. I'm more of a 4-foot player, which is why I did not really enjoy the previous Kyrie models, most notably the 2. The 3 I thought was better than the 2 as far as overall feeling, but these guys just step it up a notch because they use Cushlon. Now, normally Cushlon is used within a carrier foam, which would be Phylon. The CP3 line is the most notable use of that. They used a Podulon or Podulite setup, depending on the model, where you had a Phylon midsole, and then the pods used the Cushlon within them. So you had kind of like additional dual density layers of midsole foam, which basically provided the wearer with zone protection, whereas these guys are just straight up Cushlon. The entire midsole is Cushlon. And I believe the only time we've seen that is on the Kobe 7. If you guys remember, that was actually the Kobe system. And they had two different midsoles that you can pull in and pull out. The red midsole was the Cushlon midsole. Super comfortable. These guys are not quite on that comfort level because the midsole is actually thinner, but it's the same type of foam, which is way more comfortable than your basic average Phylon. The reason why Cushlon is so comfortable is because it's got a higher rubber content than your traditional Phylon. So it feels like it's got a little bit more bounce to it, almost like OG Micro G, just not quite as bouncy. So what you end up with here in the Kyrie 4 is just a super smooth transition from heel to 4-foot. If you happen to use your heel, they got you with that Zoom Air protection, but the most notable portion of the midsole is going to be the 4-foot, and it feels amazing. You're low to the ground with some impact protection. It's very similar to something like the Dame 4, where you're riding super low, but they didn't forget the cushion like they did in the Kyrie 4. So if you want low profile, quick responsiveness with a little bit of cushion, this guy right here, I'm telling you, you are going to love these. If you enjoyed the Kyrie 2 and 3, these are going to smoke those two, man. Like, these are awesome. The materials I absolutely love. The back section is just a straight up throwback to old school shoes. The classics, if you will. It's definitely not premium, but I will take this over whatever they used on the Nike Kobe AD mid. Those were horrible. And then the 4-foot area is engineered mesh. And like I said in the Kyrie 4 Everything You Need to Know video, it's actually backed by nylon. So it restricts a lot of the airflow, but what that ends up doing is also strengthening the material, which for me is actually a fair trade. The material is still soft, it's still malleable, it still moves with your foot really, really nicely. Very little break-in time with this area. The only thing is that it fits a little snug, which we'll get into later. And then on the very tip of the toe, they have a toe drag area made of the same material that they've got in the back. And what they typically will do is put fuse or some sort of thin plastic there. And this time they didn't do that, which I think is awesome. It just creates layers to the shoe, like I had said in my previous video. Paneling is where it's at. This is where design really kind of like takes place. You could design a silhouette all you want, but when all of these silhouettes start to look similar, paneling is what will make them look different. And that's what I like about this shoe. It's definitely a throwback to the old school days, and I totally dig it. Now, this is not a performance issue. This is just an aesthetic issue, but it has to do with the materials. My logo on my right shoe is starting to peel off, which I think is a bummer. It hasn't happened to my left pair, so I don't think it's going to be like a widespread issue or anything like that, but just something to note. Now, as far as fit, like I said in my previous video, I would go true to size. That's what I did, and they fit perfect. However, they are very, very snug. So whatever you have worn in your previous Kyrie models, if you own the 1, 2, or 3, That's what I would recommend here, especially if you're a wide footer, just because that forefoot area is super snug until you start to break it in a little bit. Now, as far as overall lockdown, I had no issues whatsoever. The lacing system, much like the previous Kyrie models, is pretty traditional, just goes straight up the throat. I had no issues with heel lockdown, containment, midfoot lockdown or containment, or the forefoot lockdown and containment. And they added these two little fly wire cables right there, which, I mean, they're not going to do much, but these two in conjunction with these big old teeth right here, they're going to just kind of keep your foot on the footbed right there if you happen to be very forefoot heavy, which Kyrie is, so it makes sense why these are there and why they actually do work. Now, the support on the Kyrie 4 I think is also fantastic. There's an internal heel counter. It's not anything substantial or anything like that, but it's definitely strong enough to get the job done with making sure that your heel does not roll over the footbed. And while you do not sit within the midsole, which is something that I really enjoy, they actually exaggerate the rubber area on the outsole up a bit, so that kind of does the same thing where it cradles your foot. It does it on both sides, and it just ensures that you do not slide over the footbed whatsoever. Now, I could not find any information on whether or not there was an internal torsional shank. However, I did not have any issues in that area of the shoe, especially with the way that it's split right here. Not only does this provide a much smoother transition, both from heel to forefoot, but also from medial to lateral side, but it just made the shoe overall move really well with your foot. Not once did the bottom area of the shoe ever feel clunky or restrictive. And that pretty much takes care of it for the performance review on the Kyrie 4. I love these things. I think these things are beasts. This is probably Nike's best model this year. And like I said before, these and the Dame 4s, if you're looking for the most bang for your buck, these two shoes are just kind of where it's at. They're both very well rounded. They offer a little bit of everything, which I think is nice, and they all do it for $120 or less, which is just awesome. Be sure to let me know what your thoughts are on the Kyrie 4 after you guys pick up a pair and playing them. If you're looking to pick up a pair, this colorway right here releases on December 20th over at eastbay.com. A direct link will be in the description box below. And of course, more colorways will be following suit. So if you're not interested in this colorway, but you're interested in something else, just stay tuned. I'm sure that they got plenty of stuff coming. But thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for your support. If you need any more information, another link will be in the description box below to head you over to WearTesters.com, where you can find their price, their weight, and their scores. Share your thoughts on these bad boys down below in the comments section. And until next time, guys, have a good one.